But tell them as a lily need a lolong mala solo to see lily lip. Pray the lolong mala solo to kill lily lip. If a she da la 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 before lola we lily. Pray the lolong mala solo to tell lily. Many have kolololom, many have galalalan. Live it la la life in a baba bi la 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 land. Lolo da la la light and a do lo da la la la. Fire go burn them with a smoke. Do you know Jah?
Down, down, down. And I can see Satan is going down, down, down. John is giving us his wonderful blessing. Now, now, now. My people come now, now, now. Must not go bow, bow, bow.
Land is my la 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 la, will see my lily. Him is my shepherd, I will never go wash lily. Him will protect me in the night and lily. Evil lost people will make man turn away. Boys foundation is in a holy mountain lily. Glorious things and I've spoken of the lily. Brother, where you respect him as the Almighty King Selassie. Get them out, but I know Jah. Do you know Jah?
Drive it away. Therefore, the wicked shall not stand in the congregation of the righteous, not the judgment. Anybody hear me say lava? As I lay myself to sleep, yeah. Oh, I pray my soul you'll keep. Yeah. If I should die before I awake, yeah. I hope my soul you'll accept, Jah, Jah. Yeah, but Lucifer is roaming with his eyes wide open, trying to destroy the children, your children. And die before I awake. I hope my soul you'll accept, Jah, Jah. Yeah, but Lucifer is roaming with his eyes wide open, trying to destroy the children, your children, Jah. You see that man called Satan? He got some wicked intentions and you know he is going down for his sins and he wants us to go with him, but I know Jah.
Yes indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, east, west, north, south, central in Trinidad. Yes, share. Yes, like. Because this is, of course, the Wednesday edition of the Corridor Transformation, your host, Lennox Smith. Now we should change it up a little bit in order to, of course, not only display relevance, not only, of course, to impress, but also, of course, to indicate that in human circumstances, one must move from stage to stage. So I trust that you like the introduction. We will tweak it a little bit, but the fact is that That is what that is all about. And of course, the music in the background will tell you what tonight's topic is all about. Yes, indeed.
Down, down, down. And I can see Satan is going down, down, down. Jah is giving us his wonderful blessing. Now, now, now. My people come now, now, now. Pastor now go bow, bow, bow.
The land is my la 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 la, will see my will. Him is my shepherd, I will never go wash lily. Him will protect me in the night and day. Evil lost people will make man turn away. Boys foundation is in a holy mountain. Glorious things and unspoken of the lily. Brother, where you respect him as the Almighty King Selassie. Get them out, what I know, Jah.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Badness out of style. Hey yo, youth man, bring me that paper. Wow, said too much borderline. Man and man fear to walk down in the next man vicinity. It's borderline. Why all the Satan wickedness in the poor man community? It's borderline. Say man and man fear to walk down in the next man vicinity. It's borderline. Why the Satan wickedness in the poor man community? So you say that you're a bad man. How much gun you got? You love to bust gunshot. Well, I say you must be mad man. No one have time for that. You're a idiot. And let me hear it from the voices in the ghetto.
The government is holding on to its promise to challenge the presence of opposition Senator Janelle John Bates on a second.
There are no bad man groups, no more bad man troops coming to rob and shoot. We should be taking time to nurture the youth. Tell you remember we're going with Sean Luke. Somebody cross the borderline. No man and man fear to walk down in the next man vicinity. It's borderline. Why all the Satan wickedness in the poor man community? It's borderline. Man and man fear to walk down in the next man vicinity. It's borderline. Why all the Satan wickedness in the poor man communities? Tell the youth in the go Martin when they should be asleep. Stop roaming to murder man. And in the hills of Maraval, since they murder Malik, everything get out of hand. Now let me hear it from the voices in the ghetto.
The government is holding on to its promise to challenge the presence of opposition Senator Janelle John Bates on a second committee she sits on. This time, the furore is over the Joint Select Committee on National Security.
We on this side, Mr. President, feel strongly that Senator John Bates must be removed from the Joint Select Committee on National Security forthwith. Her presence on that committee is keeping back the committee's work.
At the National Security Committee's April 29th meeting, Minister Rudal Munilal argued that John Bates' actions in the PAAC undermined confidence in her ability to participate impartially in deliberations involving sensitive national security matters. He recommended that she be removed and replaced. John Bates rejected the call, insisting no finding of guilt had been made against her. The majority of members eventually voted in favor of her removal and for a special report to be prepared for the Senate. John Bates was absent from Tuesday's sitting, with the opposition saying she was unwell. Temporary Senator Sanjeev Budu attended in her place.
I was quite surprised when we moved to adopt the PAAC report that Senator John Bates actually voted against it. Thankfully, she is not here today to vote against it again and to show the worst example to the children of this country.
But opposition senators accused the government of double standards.
And it is different strokes for different folks. And there is a serious issue, Mr. President, as to whether this is a situation of we and Olia or we and them. If you are in the UNC and you are beholden to their oppressive policies, you are safe, it seems. But anytime you oppose, anytime you express any different view, crapo smoke your pipe, dog eat your supper, your cuckoo cook.
Independent Senator Francis Lewis urged caution warning against what he described as a rush to judgment while other parliamentary processes remain ongoing.
And my concern is the signal that it sends that a removal of a member on grounds substantially connected to the very matters under consideration is not wise. I would not want our Senate to appear to have acted prematurely and to even suggest that we have decided or concluded on outcomes that have effectively decided in advance.
Government Senator Anil Roberts rejected that argument, saying the controversy was now distracting from the work of the committee.
The mere fact that this is the second debate that we have to get up here talking about this is rather upsetting. It's a waste of Senate time. It's a waste of resources for something that should be done so easily, so quickly. It's just wrong.
The issue centers on edits made to a witness statement submitted to the PAAC by former Health Minister Terence Dialsingh. The document was filed with track changes still visible, revealing edits by John Bates while she was a member of the committee. She was removed from the PAAC on April 16th, referred to the Privileges Committee, and resigned on May 1st. John Bates remains a member of 2 parliamentary committees. Doris Polo, CNC3 News.
I thought it was important, of course, to raise this as a fundamental and as a prelude to the discussion tonight. You see, it is all about crime and criminality. Yes, I am putting this situation in the crucible, in the mortar, to use a local parlance or local colloquial expression, in the mortar. Because you see, our children are looking on, the future leaders of this country. And here we have a situation where a sitting senator having, of course, admitted John Bates, yes, the lady that you're seeing there on the screen behind me, admitted that she ran afoul, that she did what was being accused of her or about her. And yet still, she had the audacity to believe that somehow this poison fruit, or put another way, this poison seed, can produce, of course, a non-poisonous fruit. And so while, of course, she was removed from that particular Joint Select Committee of the Parliament, where she assisted, in addition to Al-Rari as a senator as well, in doctoring, in interfering with the statement that a former Minister of Health, Dias Singh, was supposed to appear before that Joint Select Committee dealing with pharmaceutical matters in this country and questionable issues that had to be extrapolated and had to be ventilated and had to be reconciled. And here it is, prior to him giving or making an appearance before that Joint Select Committee of Parliament, these 2 senators, John Bates and, of course, Al-Rari, made an intervention to guide. Of course, Al-Rari is saying that not only is he not on that committee, so therefore culpability does not extend to him, but of course he is also saying that Dialsingh communicated with him as a client, and therefore he has no obligation to say anything because of the principle of counsel-client or lawyer-client privilege. And nothing is wrong with that, except that he is also a senator. And Bates is a senator, but sitting on that committee that's supposed to adjudicate, supposed to set up, at least write a report on the goings-on based on the evidence before that was presented before them in respect, of course, of the pharmaceutical industry or the disquieting concerns that people would have had in terms of a monopoly, and whether or not it was facilitated by the PNM when Diasa Singh was the Minister of Health in that administration. Yeah, that is what that is all about. But I want to bring this argument to the next phase or stage, because I was asked a question on Monday by my colleague on the ground report as to whether or not there were any murders over the week, the preceding weekend. And I told him in no uncertain terms, while I have not heard of any, I don't want to put my neck on a block lest I get it amputated or become decapitated, because I will not be surprised if there was. Well, it turned out the next day that there were 2 murders in Movant. And of course, because it is in Movant in particular, and not that I am not concerned with murders elsewhere in the country, but my forte, my raison d'etre, my reason for engaging in community activities over the years has always been with respect to my commitment that we can solve the problem, social, economic, cultural, educational, health, relationship-wise, in the community of Movant, Laventil, Beetham, Silats, Chumacac, East Port of Spain, where the socio-economic and psycho-cultural circumstances are parallel, are almost equal. But it goes further than that. My commitment goes further than that. It is in a fundamental belief that if you solve the Laventil and environs question, you solve at least blue-collar crime in Trinidad and Tobago. That is what I have been working for and towards. So you will not be surprised, as I have demonstrated before, and the evidence statistically and pellucidly bear out what I am talking about in terms of the efforts, whether it be the training of over 6,000 young persons of the age that is today of deep concern to the authorities, and in the belief and understanding, because the problem either continues to escalate or regurgitates, something like a recidivist in the context of a criminologistic terminology. Recidivist, but it expands. And I'm saying, if you solve the question of Laventil and the socio-economic realities therein, you solve the problem of crime and criminality throughout the country. You see, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand. The mere proximity of these communities to the seat of power at the main central administrative center, politics, commerce, and otherwise of the country, are talking about the capital city, Port of Spain. And the fact that of necessity or as a consequence, you will have greater emphasis paid to these areas by the police in terms of policing, because after all, the parliament is located in Port-au-Spain. The Hall of Justice is located in Port-au-Spain. The main, what I consider to be, at times, converted to be the social interventions in terms of recreation and camaraderie, whether it be the Queen's Park Savannah, the Queen's Park Oval, or indeed Woodford Square. The fact is that these open spaces are for human consumption and use, and therefore it is these suburban communities will be not just making or availing themselves of the presence of these assets, but their mere proximity, their mere nearness to, just a stone's throw out of Port-au-Spain, means that, and I have said it before and I will say it here tonight again, I told Patrick Manning in a letter back in and after they won the election, the PNM won the election in 1991, that Laventille and East Port-au-Spain and these other communities, Beetham, Sealets, etc., because they are so close to Port-au-Spain, and if they remain depressed and oppressed and no mechanism, no intensive mechanism is placed to realize their true potential in terms of contributing positively to the development of Trinidad and Tobago, these communities will be an active participant in any social upheaval in Trinidad and Tobago. This is not hairy-fairy talk, you know. This is not an attempt to be alarmist. The mere fact that it is said does not mean that one is unconscious of the realities. And you have to be a person from Mars, if not from the sun, even though, of course, no life could, as we know it, can exist there. But I'm saying it for emphasis. Unless you come from there, you would know, or you ought to know, why it is I am talking in this way. And just in case you cannot follow me, I want to say that whether it be the 1970 uprising and the Black Power movement, or whether it be the 1990 attempted coup, you would see a significant membership, a significant element emanating from these communities that participated in these exercises or these events that have, of course, put a blot on Trinidad and Tobago's socio-economic and psycho-cultural development. And it is embedded in the historical accounts as far as Trinidad and Tobago's evolution so far is concerned. And so it is important for us to understand. You see, only today I had the displeasure, really. I don't take pleasure in saying these things. But I told some people today who I consider to be significant, looking at the situation in Trinidad and Tobago now, and of course in the recent past, I didn't want to go farther afield like back in 1990 and 70 and so on. So I kept it more contemporary. And I said in no uncertain terms I have lived to see, I have experienced, because my political stance started in 1986, the first time I voted. I voted for the NAR. But I always had the sense that if you solve the issue of Lavatil, East Port of Spain, Bitam, Silat, Chumakak, Movan, Malik, you solve a tremendous impediment to the potential and real development of Trinidad and Tobago, particularly in the context that we have been faced with the Hobson's choice, a choice that we do not have any wiggling room to maneuver. You solve the problem of crime and criminality, and therefore it generates the stability and the imperative for a peaceful and prosperous Trinidad and Tobago. And over the years, we have seen persons who would have been given the awesome responsibility to decide for Trinidad and Tobago at the highest level, whether it be government in terms of cabinet and of course parliament. And especially when they are in government, the government side of the decision-making processes that will take Trinidad and Tobago either forward, remain static, or backwards. Invariably, as I told the think tank this afternoon, they seem to always have the solution once they get the power. Once they get the power, they know everything. And whilst they were seeking to acquire the power, persons like myself, in spite of the challenges, in spite of the trepidations, in spite of the tragedies, in spite of the trauma and the disquiet that will very often and too often be part and parcel of the experiences of these communities, these leaders, as soon as they get into office and they have the mantle of power, they suddenly know everything and they have all the solutions. And guess what? I'm around long enough to know that eventually when they realize that they have failed or are failing, they resort to people like me. But that is ephemeral, that is temporary. As soon as the next cycle of power or decision makers come around, you have to wait again. Because the process continues. And so they believe they have all the solutions. And they come to you and all during and when in opposition. And when they get into office, they have all the solutions. Only to prove a fellow like me right again. That it was mere pie in the sky, an exercise in what I consider to be self-aggrandizement, futility, if they were ever serious about addressing the socio-economic, psycho-cultural, and all of the attendant problems, physical and otherwise, that these communities have evolved into. The mutation or the mutative consideration is enormous. And as the population increases, the problem ever expands. So much so that I have seen, and you have experienced that as well, especially during the last administration under the PNM administration, I have to say, under Rowley and Stuart Young and whosoever, and including, of course, Penalty Beckles, they've given up. They've given up. I don't get me vexed before I play Rowley as to what he said when he realized that the problem of crime and criminality and, of course, getting young people to focus. I'm talking about that group of young people, because it's not all of them, but it is a sufficient critical mass of them to generate the disruption, the disquiet, the evil, the retrogression that we would have experienced as a people domestically, regionally, and internationally, and thus affecting the pure and natural progress of Trinidad and Tobago. As I said, don't get me vexed, because while he was saying that he has given up Rowley when he was Prime Minister, and that he says, whilst he was given up, he also said, but listen, all you know what to do, because I can't make. All you know what to do, I can't make. Don't get me vexed before I play it. I ain't going to play it now because I have to go to another computer to get the information. But I can do it tomorrow night if all you get me vexed. Tonight. So that is where we are. But more significantly, and why I can expand the goings on, the unfavorable and unacceptable behavioral conduct that has manifested itself in crime and criminality, and in greater specificity, whether it be home invasion, whether it be kidnapping, whether it be robberies, whether it be housebreaking, etc. The fact of the matter is this, that a significant contribution to all of that blue-collar crime scenario emanates from these communities that I have the unrelenting faith in for transformation and for contributing positively to Trinidad and Tobago. I say this against the background, as I have indicated before. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that. You don't even have to be selfish in terms of projecting your own community and saying that you too or they too should be similarly focused upon. You see, because there is none in the country that can match, that can override, that can overtake, that can go beyond the arguments that have just advanced for East Port of Spain, Laventil, Beetham, Silat, Samova, Malik, Chumakak, Belmont, etc. Why? None, and all without exception, cannot say or claim that their community has been the subject of international scrutiny and focus. None. And for the wrong reason. None. I've often mentioned, and it is not for regurgitation purposes alone, but more for emphasis that advisories against Trinidad and Tobago emanating from the European continent, from the North American continent, whether Canada, United States, the region, advisories against Trinidad and Tobago. And while that is common for obvious reasons, whether investors from the north want to, of course, come to these parts to invest, whether they want to just have a trip and see other parts of the world, having, of course, the resources so to do by way of whatever means of transport, whether it be air or whether it be by sea. I'm talking about, of course, cruise ship and all of that. In the context of Trinidad, no community has been mentioned. Let me repeat. No other community in Trinidad and Tobago has been mentioned in the advisories that would be emanating or would have been crafted by these developed world, if you want to call that, or the richest countries in the world who can make an impact here by way of investment and even by way of the tourist product that we offer here, and to attract in order to get the foreign exchange that will satisfy our foreign taste. No other community is mentioned in these advisories. They say, don't go Trinidad, because we have gotten the reputation by way of the ISIS and the international terrorist list. We have gotten the reputation of the situation with respect to not just terrorists, but all of the issues relating to gangs and gang warfare and gangsters finding their way into England or United Kingdom, and United Kingdom having, of course, to make some adjustments to their immigration policy to prevent that from happening, because they are seeing, of course, that Trinidad appeared to be emptying its problem into that country at one point in time. And what are the countries? The countries are what are the communities that are being flagged? Nelson Street, Queens Park, Savannah, etc. Let me just put this together here. Pleasant good night. Are you hearing me now? Are you hearing me, caller? I call back, caller. Just adjusted the microphone and the other apparatus to get the communication going. So the line is open, so you can, of course, call. I know that the topic is a bit hot and a bit sensitive, and people want to know. No other community is mentioned in these advisories against Trinidad and Tobago, whether it be from the United Kingdom, whether it be from France, whether it be from Germany, whether it be from Italy, whether it be from Canada, whether it be from the United States, whether it be from our Caribbean neighbors, or whether it be from Latin America. But Nelson Street is mentioned. Just one street away from George Street, where I am now sitting. Queens Park, Savannah, a stone's throw away, is also mentioned. And that's because of the proximity, the nearness of each one to each other. No other community. And why can't it be acknowledged and get into the thick skulls of those who would have gotten opportunities to address and to make decisions for Trinidad and Tobago, that you have to treat with these places as a special case. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hello, good night, Lennox. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Are you hearing me loud and clear?
Family.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Go ahead.
good night to my brother COP every year. Your former course in the making. I know we're going to tell you.
Yeah, don't fight. I understand our apology to him and some additional information. But go ahead.
Lennox, I was taking the ground report this morning, and I hear Sophie Santa reading all the attack and all that. She making all the uncomfortable to doing all the program with the contribution Anderson Wilson make about Beulah. Which you take cats and them. Or she doesn't go on at a program and that government station when she are part of sitting on our board and make them life miserable and that program they step on and extend them program and them. Why she was coming in ground report and telling Anderson about he get bone and getting on. So you get your bone. You just listening and just cutting out and trying to victimize people. I know what's going on, and also making the UNC look bad and bringing down the government. When people talk about the government, all the vexing and calling them the traitors, there's all kind of thing. People work hard just like you and want opportunities because when the civil says, show ice in it on the ground, people don't fight and work with the UNC. I set up PNM, people get opportunity faster in the UNC. Activists and supporters and them, we have to be going out there and begging like dog. And ministers know we personally know the kind of work, the kind of thing we do, and support this government. The Honorable Prime Minister, we have what's going on now. Some of the ministers are only picking the start to reject PNM. I can call them out one by one. I on the ground, I watching and seeing what's going on. Because I is a man. I a fighter, I don't give up. So that you know explain it. We start a program it. Then if you see that man who was dealing with, that man is a soldier. That man sees something in me and give me the opportunity to provide a bread on my family table. And me know that man from nowhere. I meet him once in the UNC thing in there, and I went to a place and the man ready to look after me. No promises. No broken talk. He's a man to his word. And he's a man, he's an East Indian guy, and African people around the US get in the position promising this and promising that. They're looking out for the black brothers and sisters. Why they treating those people so? That's why I love the East Indian community. I live in the East Indian community. Me, in fact, East Indian life. I watch and see what's going on, they helping other people, they're uplifting the people, and making sure and give them opportunities and this and that. And people who in the UNC ministers, these black brothers and sisters look like me and you, when they go by them, they glutton you, they want to see you. Well, my head too hard, and my nose too flat. I want to push that racial thing, but I was watching and seeing my brother special we African brothers and Indians so much. We African brothers and sisters, well, help all the black brothers and sisters uplift. That will be talking about in this West crowd up here, and I'm around the country for donkey years. They never uplift the black brothers and sisters, Lavanti and environment. Them places supposed to be beautiful, nice, upliftment, proper schools, proper water running. Down by where I live in here, no complaining. Everything in order. The same people rolling and paying us custom for donkey and balling behind the lagoon and the lagoon and the lagoon. The lagoon doing well. Bamboo number one, all the back there, like down on the avenue. So Lennox, try to talk to the black brothers and sisters now. I go on.
I hear you, my friend. Well, of course, I think there might have been a misunderstanding this morning because Anderson talked about the cats of a particular caller who regularly defends and of course is a lover of cats, and therefore he said something about she and her cats. Of course, some people took it in the wrong, in the way that that they felt offended vicariously for her. But frankly, I don't. My personal view is that it wasn't that offensive, having regard to the fact that the individual would refer to her cats, very passionately. And as Trinbagonians, of course, you may want to use certain innuendos, etc. But in this case, it wasn't innuendo. It was just a matter of... At any rate, we have stopped any kind of personal reference of that nature to anybody on the program. So we have made that very clear, and that will be reflected in the way how the director has been instructed to treat with such callers. Right? We want to deal with the focus, the issue, nothing else. Pleasant good night, my friend. I'll call you tomorrow for sure, because I think we need to have your involvement in order for us to deal with this long outstanding matter. I think it is getting longer and longer now, and we need to put closure to it. Pleasant good night, my friend.
I agree with that, Lennox Matter.
Yeah.
And good night to all the listeners and viewers of the Corridor Transformation. You 140-something of you that looked on the Corridor Transformation. I don't think it had anything offensive in Anderson's contribution this morning, Lennox. To tell you the honest truth, I always hear people papi show and make joke about all the cats and them that Beulah had. For a little while now. Even
she herself from time to time will say, don't do anything else, but leave a cat and them out to this and on all of that. And the typical Trinidadian will want, of course, to weigh in on it and put their own spin to it, etc., etc. But it's all in good humor.
Beulah don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, all in good humor.
Have a problem with that.
Yeah,
it shouldn't offend anybody else.
Yeah.
It shouldn't offend anybody else. Yeah. Because it's not the first time they talk about that, and they laugh about it. I hear it many times.
Yeah.
Wall Street program too, they make joke and that and thing.
Okay.
But to attack Anderson in that way and bringing about communication and all them things choppiness, that is an attack. That is an attack. Me ain't get involved in that. But when you really look at it,
I want to say though that if that was out of an abundance of protection for the ground report, we want to commend the individual for taking that stance. But of course, generally, I don't think that Tat would have flagged that, red flag that as an issue. But go ahead.
I can go on some programs, and I will get about 20-something clips, which people joke about that.
Yeah.
And that wasn't directed to her. That was directed to the animals.
Yeah.
As what they're accustomed directing it to. Yeah. When you look at the senator that they want removed from Parliament, Lennox Matter and listeners of the Corridor Transformation, this person, Bates, she agreed that she did something wrong and offer her resignation, acknowledging that she do something wrong. Why the PNM will try to defend that and the penny will hold back and what they're holding back? Something that is wrong. What them will know the questions that the chairman and that meeting will be asking, right?
Yes.
What them went and do? Them went and doctor the paper and give the ex-minister the answers on them in the papers, what to say and what not to say.
The witness to be,
How that is not an arrestable offense in Parliament? That is so illegal and so wrong. If we even go and outsmart a shop vendor If we go and outsmart a shop vendor and get goods, we will get locked up for that. And the PNM and Penny and them will defend that and allege advice from a senior counsel, also a senator, which is Faris Alwari, advised to do that. And PNM still breaks on that. When every UWI student in this country that's studying law will say, hey, that is wrong. Coming from lawyers, senior counsel too. But I want to tell people, you see all the destruction that Lennox Smith speaking about in these communities and them, blame all the PNM activists and them too, and all the PNM MPs and them, and all the PNM councillors and them, for the destruction and the neglect. When the UNC was developing this country from 2010, that the UNC, the People's Partnership, under the leadership of Kamala Prasad Bisesa, was building 129 schools. All them PNM MPs and them, all them PNM councillors and them, all them PNM activists and them, you all shit, you was in that too. All you condemn the 129 schools. When the UNC under the People's Partnership was building that Kuva hospital, all you all shit, you was in that too. Say she building that for Indian people in South, and vote against that, and glad that Rowley hold down that hospital for 10 years and leave it abandoned. You all support that. When the People's Partnership was building a UWI campus down there, all say, yes, Wall Street, you was in that too, and all the PNM councillors and all the PNM ministers and them say that they're building that down there for Indian people and depriving black people studying. Today, all showing videos and say, look how the PNM are black people like monkeys. For 50 years you support that. Today the community need assistance. The name of your program is the voice of the African diaspora. Today you playing more dosti roti than rather than speak on behalf of the African community. Do you see how Nelson Street is today? Do you see how Duncan Street is today? Do you see how Lavantil is today? All is supposed to go on all their knees. All the PNM MPs, all the PNM councillors, all the PNM activists and them, you in that to Wall Street, the destruction that you all created in the black community for party support and for tribal support, have the black community today in disrepute, in destruction, in chaos, in mayhem. And today leaders like Lennox Smith fighting for 30-something years to bring stability and some kind of motivation for the young people in this constituency. You all will not work with him. You all will not say, well, look, I abandoned the community for 50 years and support the PNM and create that destruction. Look, 18 months now, I'm supporting the UNC. Let me work with Lennox Smith and them and see what we could do. Because that action in those communities, you all create that to keep the PNM alive. All the PNM activists, all the PNM councillors, and all the PNM MPs and them for the past 50 years. And I'm sending a message to all the Wall Street supporters and them too. You cannot leave out a UNC program like this and a UNC activist like this for over 35 years and run and go and support a program that is there 18 months now, UNC, and leave out the foundation and then say always you real UNC. And when the UNC activists speak out, always say, always cuss them and say there is no UNC activists. There's what? There's Big Snake. There's Big Snake. All you know about UNC, support a UNC activist who supporting UNC for 30 years, rather than a PNM activist for 50 years, turn UNC activist 18 months now. Think about it. Be conscious to yourself. You wasn't born and created to think biased and controversial and sarcastic and foolish. You was created to motivate and inspire and lead, not follow. Lennox better. Thanks you.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much, of course. And what I would like to expand upon based on what he has just said, and as I said, I will be communicating with you on how we will move forward to get at least our inaugural program going. I think it's about time. This should be the last week for any procrastination. But let's go to the line. A pleasant good night to welcome to the corridor.
A pleasant good night to each and every one on the corridor transformation, east, west, north, and south, and Tobago too. Share the life, share the life. Tell everybody, Uncle Lennox bad talking the UNC, and that the PNM bad talking themselves. Because just imagine, when people have nothing good to say and to talk, and see the mischief, what plagued this land for the last 10 years, they can't talk about it and explain themselves as a true patriot, much less for an activist in the party that they're looking to say they're activists. But anyway, Uncle Lennox.
Hey.
A pleasant good night to you.
Same to you.
And Joshua.
And you have this propensity to misrepresent my position, and whilst I understand is out of jest, you may find yourself in a situation where people may take it serious, and next thing they misinterpret and they act on it. So I say so merely for you to know that. That's all. Go ahead.
Here what's going on. You tell me I could cuss you any day, any time on this program, and feel free to call.
And I maintain that. I notice
right.
I have not said stop it. I just draw it to your attention. Go ahead.
But Uncle Lennox, it's okay for other people, right?
Yeah.
To say that you are talking UNC, and when your good friend, that's what he mentioned, that you are talking to UNC and the PNM in chaos. They know where they're going. I wrong for saying that statement. You see how it's not like one pair?
Well, you know, some people have a roundabout way, a circumlocutive way of making their point, because of course it is all about focusing on the iniquities and the iniquitous, which of course in this case has been the PNM, who have been in office for too damn long and have of course decimated the communities about which I have been concerned and committed myself from time immemorial, all of my adult life, in other words. So go ahead.
So you leave me to jump into to give you a piece of word here now. You know, when we're young, we don't wear no underwear. When we start secondary school, we start to wear underwear. Then when we married, we have underwear. When we reach 60, we don't even have underwear. Why now? And in politics, they still find to wash the underwear and dirty linens in the public. But here what's going on.
Yeah.
You see, a true activist is one like you. And I just aspire to be not like you, but to follow in your footstep or your shadow. Because to fill your shoes, my size and your size equal. But I could never fill your shoes. So I try to follow and learn. But you see, last night, Granny talk and say that although you get nothing and you don't do nothing, go still fight as an activist. But if I ask you tonight to ask Granny to call in and ask if she have any doctors in she family, and that any of them, if any doctors in she family was lobbied to get work in the RHs in Trinidad, or they get work in Guyana. If they go in Guyana or they want to work in Trinidad. But you see, when you could stand up and see and call a donkey and a spade is only when you is just, upright, but you could have some characteristics of moral and righteousness in your heart. But you see, when people are accustomed trampling on others to get to the top, this is what they will do to defend themselves, to stay on the top. Because time and time again, right, they will do it, and when they're in a comfortable place, they don't want to give it up when they feel threatened by you. But you see, I want to tell you that I did tell you about the Southeast Coast, where ExxonMobil went and drill. Before they come to drill, what kind of oil we had there, what kind of gas we have there, and it's close to the Guyana boundary where they're drilling, and they have all are reserved. And there is where Stuart Young and Keith Rowley hoodwinked the citizens of Lavantil by signing a contract in Amsterdam to give them, the company Shell 30 years operation license for the Dragon gas. So see where that money would have been going and that revenue would have been going. While we had it right here in our waters to sustain it. But I want to ask Stuart Young tonight on your program. Stuarty, is it that Woodside was trying to build up enough money, or they was bringing a floating rig to go and drill in the economic zone? I wonder. Because here what's going on. It's because of them gas deal and them development of those field. And the Jubilee, where the money going? You're seeing where it affects the 13th constituency the PNM holds today, and that is what you're talking about. We have the resources, we have it there. But if you know the trick of the trade, what it is do outside it, right? Let's drop the production and say the loss in money, right? But I want the Minister of Energy to make me an inspector, and Uncle Lennox an inspector of energy. And we go with the Coast Guard, and we do a true output, and flow them wells on them, right through all them installation, and we'll see what is the real output of them well on them. So, Uncle Lennox, when the PNM was there for 10 years, and making mischief and deprive their own constituents, this is what you're talking about. It reached international that they tell them, don't come there, because these people and them is very unemployed, and at any means necessary, they try to survive. So they do anything to survive, to get $1. And in that process, if you go close to those areas, you could be a victim. So you see where it linked to? And then, Penny and them coming now to make mischief, to say that Saddam, right? They know what he's doing. But you know what I like about it? Thank God them could call the OPR office every day and launch a complaint. But up to this day, Stuart can answer how it is Mark Lukman and Alison get
this kind of guarantee for gas for their plant, right? And how they get money to finance the project and leave the people that represent wanting all the time.
Thank you very much.
So you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I get it clear, loud and clear.
Right. So when I say Uncle Lennox, we're talking the UNC, and that's following others. But you see, I won't do like others because they don't stand with the party. Because if they stand with the party, they will ask in there to say what was the fiscal measures and why it is the statistic office, right, in the Ministry of Finance, where it is giving you the reader of the outlook of the economy, why it is Hele was fabricated for the last 10 years when he was there. And this is the outcome, right? So,
all right, thank you very much. Yes. We got the gist of it. Yes, indeed. We got the gist of it.
The furore is over the Joint Select Committee on National Security. The government is holding on to its promise to challenge the presence of opposition Senator Janelle John Bates on a second committee she sits on. This time, the furore is over the Joint Select Committee on National Security.
Just in case you just joined us, this is what this clip is all about.
John Bates must be removed from the Joint Select Committee on National Security forthwith. Her presence on that committee is keeping back the committee's work.
At the National Security Committee's April 29th meeting, Minister Rudal Munilal argued that John Bates' actions in the PAAC undermined confidence in her ability to participate impartially in deliberations involving sensitive national security matters. He recommended that she be removed and replaced. John Bates rejected the call, insisting no finding of guilt had been made against her. The majority of members eventually voted in favor of her removal and for a special report to be prepared for the Senate. John Bates was absent from Tuesday's sitting, with the opposition saying she was unwell. Temporary Senator Sanjeev Budu attended in her place.
I was quite surprised when we moved to adopt the PAAC report that Senator John Bates actually voted against it. Thankfully, she is not here today to vote against it again and to show the worst example to the children of this country.
But opposition senators accused the government of double standards.
And it is different strokes for different folks. And there is a serious issue, Mr. President, as to whether this is a situation of we and Olia or we and them. If you are in the UNC and you are beholden to their oppressive policies, you are safe, it seems. But anytime you oppose, anytime you express any different view, crapo smoke your pipe, dog eat your supper, your cuckoo cook.
Independent Senator Francis Lewis urged caution, warning against what he described as a rush to judgment, while other parliamentary processes remain ongoing.
And my concern is the signal that it sends that a removal of a member on grounds substantially connected to the very matters under consideration is not wise. I would not want our Senate to appear to have acted prematurely and to even suggest that we have decided or concluded on outcomes that have effectively decided in advance.
Government Senator Anil Roberts rejected that argument, saying the controversy was now distracting from the work of the committee.
The mere fact that this is the second debate that we have to get up here talking about this is rather upsetting. It's a waste of Senate time. It's a waste of resources for something that should be done so easily, so quickly. It's just wrong.
The issue centers on edits made to a witness statement submitted to the PAAC by former Health Minister Terence Dialsing. The document was filed with track changes still visible, revealing edits by John Bates while she was a member of the committee. She was removed from the PAAC on April 16th, referred to the Privileges Committee, and resigned on May 1st. John.
So, yes, indeed, people. I thought I should, replay that because it was played earlier, so you get a sense as to where we are going. But that by itself I don't want anybody to lose the direction which I have set in relation to this issue, because it has to do with how the PNM would have dealt with that matter. I didn't mention it earlier, but let me get to the gist of it now. She resigned. Ms. Bates resigned, Senator Bates resigned from the committee. In other words, by saying that she was in fact guilty, she confessed to that egregious breach of trust that is normally reposed in such an office or such an officer. She being a lawyer makes it even more what I consider to be not just horrendous, not just barbaric, not just humiliating, not just insensitive, not just dotish, not just asinine, but yet still you have a situation where the political leader now of the PNM is procrastinating and giving us some of the, we prefer to forget, but she is now regurgitating, reminding us of some of the obnoxious statements that would have been projected in the political arena and to some extent added to the political lexicon, the dictionary of this country, some of the obscene statements that would have been made by Rowley. She tried to give us a Rowley recently at the weekend family day of the PNM at Mandela Park. Apart from procrastinating, meaning that she delaying, she has to get rid of this lady, this senator. She has procrastinated, and then she says at that function over the weekend, listen, don't rush me, and try somehow to shell, to exculpate, to shred some of the obvious nonsensicality, nonsense, cacophonous babblings, ambulatory public utterances in relation to this matter, and of course John Bates, by deflecting or making reference to Anil Roberts, David Lee, as people who have questions to answer, and therefore nobody must tell her, she, Penelope Beckles, who to put in the Senate and for how long. We will continue after this call. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hello, good night.
Good night, my friend.
This is San Fernando.
Welcome, San Fernando.
I want to say good night to all the 170 people I see on the program now, looking out. I want to say good night to everybody.
Right.
Tonight we're dealing with the John Bates issue. Not so?
Yes. And of course, there are repercussions that I have indicated earlier that I will extrapolate a little later. But go ahead.
And I'm trying to find out something. Where really the double standards is? Is it with the government or with the opposition? Because the opposition is claiming that the government has double standards. When John Bates have agreed of the guilt.
That's right. She confessed.
Yeah. So I don't really follow what nonsense is that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, because if you were making reference to David Lee, for example, who of course is a deputy political leader of the UNC, but his matter is before the court, and we have a system that says that, listen, you are innocent until proven guilty. Quite apart from the fact, nobody is that naive or that distant not to take into account that the matter was ventilated already in the court, and the court dismissed the same matter. Yet still, of course, you put the man in double jeopardy, and Penelope Beckers, who is supposed to be a lawyer herself, she ought to know that. It means, therefore, that this is a political exercise that really and truly ought to land them in further hot water because of the meandering to do one simple thing: get rid of the woman. Go ahead.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And Penny is just fooling around with the whole issue.
Yes.
Because in my view, if the woman admits that here what it is, I'm guilty, I resign, let me go. Then go. If you know that you did wrong, then go. So
you are condoning, you are fostering, you are fomenting behavior that is untenable for the position that these persons hold, or put another way, as a parliamentarian in general. Go ahead.
Yeah, so and Roberts is quite right in his statement, because she's keeping back this Bates woman is keeping back the work of the committee.
Yeah, and another committee as well. She was also on the National Security Council committee, and they refuse to. Once she's present, they refuse to convene and to conduct their business. Go ahead.
Because she already did wrong. Yeah. So
she confessed to doing wrong. She confessed to not that she did wrong. She confessed. And what do you think? You saw the clip because I want to focus on the independent senator who said that it is premature. How could it be premature to make a judgment, even though the House has sent the matter to the Privileges Committee, which is a separate process altogether? But the fact is that how could you say that you are being preemptive when she confessed? She can't wipe that away. She can't take it back. Yes, I'm coming from. Otherwise, if she takes it back and says she makes a mistake, then one has to consider her mental stability.
Yeah, but I was a bit taken aback by the dates, how the dates was conflicting with when she resigned and when she did.
Yes, but the fact is that the political leader of the PNM has refused to do the right thing, the honorable thing, the decent thing, the morally correct thing, which is of course to effect her departure from that whole and relieve her from her misery. Yeah, from her misery, because she can't feel comfortable on a daily basis. But yet still the political leader of the PNM insists that she remains in that quagmire. But go ahead.
Exactly, and sitting down on two other committees too, that will make people feel uncomfortable.
Of course. So she has expanded the uncomfortableness. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that is a contribution to it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right.
And people, once again, I am saying all of this. I am bringing up all of this to say that our young people are looking on. Our young people, and in this case, I love to be, and whether you criticize me positively, negatively, it doesn't matter to me, especially from East Port of Spain, Laventil, Beetham, Sealats, Chumaca, Movant, Belmont. They are looking on. And they are not stupid as some people may think they are, as the PNM or would have conditioned them to believe. Because a simple thing like the infallibility of the PNM is now thrown under the bus and is now a distant memory for many, because they have lost elections, but they get on as if they don't, and when they win with the very bare majority. So we know that is a party in decline. But let's go to the line. The President, good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night to the Honorable Lennox, the political leader of the Rocket Love.
Thank you.
And good night to all the viewers on Corridor Transformation. The brother there always tell me, I hear when they calling in, they say good night to the brothers. I heard the young fella, I only tune in when that person was talking, and I recognize good night to the brother there, Mr. COP, and not forgetting Freeport, Mr. Freeport also. I hear the voice, I recognize the voice, and some others here, but I cannot recall the names at this point in time. You're quite right, Lennox, and the program is for the people in the voice, in the ground. It has people hurting. It has people hurting. You need to tune in when the brother was talking about how he worked tirelessly, right? He worked tirelessly on the ground, and he's not being treated properly. If I'm mistaken, that same said gentleman, he have a young child with a girl. He might have paid his rent AGC home, right? No, it have plenty good persons in this government, right? Good MPs. We ask that they do something, and also recognize the activists on them, recognize the stalwart. I hear this brother crying out, and all is not well. All is not well, right? And what are happening also? It have just mayhem taking place across the state board, agencies, corporation, right? Things what's not supposed to be happening, it happening, right? Persons dictating things. Look, the other day I hear when Lennox was talking about it have a person, they was eating a food in the passport office. Persons just pick up the phone call or make a deposit or whatsoever. No, because we have my transfer. We have entered a digital transformation world. You don't have to go places. You just do your transaction and you wire across your money and you get anything done. Not only there, in the license office. You could get that in the ID card office if you want something done. Lennox, you're quite right. Thank God for the corridor transformation, bringing things and opening people's eyes. What is happening, I observed this boy, Lennox. Plenty of the state agencies, after time, they turned a political football field, right? Because when persons take those persons and put them there, you feel they wouldn't do what the other person who put them there to do. Instead, they know the right thing to do. They're doing it opposite side. And if something is supposed to go straight, and them seeing a lot of loopholes, where it looks, for instance, right in a certain ministry, right? And they have the manpower, they have the state resources, but they're still going to get contractors to bypass these workers and these state resources and machinery and all them things to give contracts. This is not right, because we, the taxpayers, we have serious issues to be sought out, right? We want goods and services to continue to deliver to the people. Not a fraction of persons must be polished up. And what about the others? This is a serious thing, This is a very serious thing. And again, because I know just now you're going to be closing off, so I can make my contribution short tonight. And I want to say, Mr. Lennox, because you as a political leader, my brother, I salute you, because you have your memberships who depending on you. Look, the other day I just said a thing because I know you is a stalwart who could get things done quick. But you need, for instance, where we have to go, no, we enter into a rainy season at this point in time, but, and it have multiple vehicles in this, in like, especially in the works, Ministry of Works, right? And those vehicles are just dumb, and they just need simple, like they change the tire or the battery or change the oil or some kind of thing. And now they will have to get workers to work on these vehicles and to go out and get out there and sweep the roads, patch here, do that. And while they had to wait and look for, I know Mr. Lennox, within an hour you could gather 1,000 people to do the people work, right? And get that job done, because you see downtown Port of Spain, that is the nation capital, and especially on the East-West corridor. As we have entered now to the rainy season, if we don't act swift, we will face the consequences. Good night again. Bless on and lockdown.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm always impressed, and I spare no opportunity to express that deep appreciation, understanding, and commendation to those callers. And I'm sure that there are those on the blogs as well. I don't look at it, I want to tell you that. So you wouldn't find me responding, but it is there for them as a convenience, as part of the technology to respond to each other, whichever way. But I've always been impressed with those persons who would have taken the time and resource and energy to call in and to express themselves. And I never fail to be impressed with the quality of the contributions. I prefer, as most people would, to deal with the issues, and by and large, if I have to give a percentage as to deviation from the issue, I would say it was just a 0.5% of the callers may make reference to personality, but generally it is about issue, because that is what it is all about. If you give people, to whom much is given, much is expected, and if you give people the awesome responsibility which they have accepted by way of the legal parameters that would cause it to happen, whether it be the Constitution or any other legal recognized system or mechanism for them to serve the people, then one expects that. And I was making the point earlier that those who are given that awesome responsibility, my experience has been that too often it is like a recurring decimal. They suddenly get bright. They come with their own ideas, even though it's a situation that was being addressed before by persons who would have led the way, would have pioneered to deal with young people, for example. And then suddenly somebody gets the office, not the person who was dealing with the matter all the time and therefore is the right thing to do. But I understand too that a person may be dealing with a particular issue and may not have management skills, etc. But where all of that converge, management skill, demonstrable success in implementation of projects, plans, and initiatives that has seen the transformation of young people in this particular case that have a propensity to gravitate to a life of crime, criminality, and of course gang warfare, etc. Then that is the person that must be a resource asset or be given the responsibility to continue what he or she has been doing. I mean, common sense will tell you that you don't need a rocket scientist. But what I understand as well, because experience is the best teacher. you have those persons who in no affading. But because they would have been given the opportunity by whatever mechanism, clearly not one of objectivity, because objectivity will mean that you will search or you would have been familiar with those who have been laboring in the vineyard, resources, no resource, and doing the same thing that the government would want to address. In this case, of course, youth and delinquency, crime and criminality. And you put them in office, and suddenly, and only when the feces hit the fan, then they come back to people like me to perform miracles. To perform miracles. I say my job is not, or to avoid that from happening. It has to be. It cannot continue like that. It is not sustainable. That awful recycling, ability, non-ability, replacement, ability, non-replacement, and you go on and on in that what I consider to be perpetual cycle of counterproductivity. Counterproductivity. That's what that is. You must build on what you have, and then you move forward with the best that you can produce. And I've always said, as I've said tonight, there are no community that has been mentioned in any advisories across the globe more than East Port of Spain, Nelson Street, Dogo Nelson Street, Dogo Savannah, Dogo Belmont, etc. Not Couva, not La Romaine, not Diego Martin, not Maraval, not Toco, not Maracas, yes, not Manzanilla, not Guayari, not Point Forte, not Labre, but East Port of Spain and John, Nelson Street, Belmont, etc. And we have to acknowledge that. And therefore, what do you do to solve the problem? You leave these people to their own whim and fancy, and you have the largesse of the state to make an intervention and to help these people to generate the transformation. And because you come in office and you suddenly get bright, and then you fail, and then the cycle continues. Usually at the end of a term, a political term, or put another way, a governmental term, for want of a better term. But let's go to the line. Professor, good night. Welcome to the corridor. You have to be real.
Good evening, Dr. Lennox.
Good evening to you.
I was trying to get on to you during the week, but do you remember around when the property tax, just before the property tax was introduced, there was a lady saying that they will come and seize your microwave, your bed, your stove, if you can't pay the property tax?
Yeah.
Well, I want you to find that, if you can find that clip and play it on the ground report. All right, good night and
thank you.
Take care.
I will. Thank you very much. And we are quickly running out of time, so let me jump to the conclusion here. The conclusion is this: that the PNM clearly has lost its way a very long time ago. Secondly, they don't have a clue as to what to do. And how is that rationalized? It's rationalized simple. They know what they did in the last 10 years, moving our reserves from $12 billion to about $4 billion by the time the 28th of April 2025 came around. They know that. They are now in opposition, and suddenly they have all the solutions. But why they were there for 10 years? None. But what is more significant, they are identifying what they consider to be shortcomings of the present government. Let me repeat. They identifying what they consider to be shortcomings of the present government. Not that the steps that are being taken, and I'm satisfied, that are short-term measures in order to resurface, or put another way, stabilize Trinidad and Tobago across the board, whether it's economic, social, crime, etc. It has to be, because that will appeal and apply to your common sense, because it's only about a year they are in government. They took 10 years to do all that damage. And suddenly, they wanted to absolve themselves. They wanted to relinquish any responsibility. And why can I make that very bold statement? Why? Because none of the titular or leger leaders, including the substantive leader, Penelope Beckles, and maybe her forerunners, whether it be Young or Rowley, have not apologized. But let's assume that they believe they're too big to apologize. They have not told us what they would have done in this circumstance. What we know, however, that they would have engaged in property tax, they would have engaged in the raising of electricity rates, water rates, and it is not inconceivable that they would have found other, what I consider to be dastardly but creative ways to demand from the ordinary person, the citizens, the homeowners, where invariably they are not business people but have a single salary, I would want to dip into that. Why? Because their taxes are usually focused on what? On domestic, not commercial, as this government has done. You are using your home, whether you call it a home, you're living there or not, to gain business, to gain an income by virtue of rent. Then it ought not to be a burden as it would have if you were not using it for that purpose, to give a piece of it in the form of the rent levy or the rental tax, as some people prefer to say. Not so. But the PNM's approach, every single person, whether they have business or not, on the same level, they have to pay. And add, of course, to the burden of your fixed salary scenario. That is essentially what the PNM has done. Focus on the ordinary person. Notice when the UNC said that they would revert to the land and building taxes before the elections of 2025, who they said they will focus on, and Rowley confessed to that, you know. I don't get me vexed before I play it too, you know. He said that they will focus on those business persons first. But having said at that time that they will never deal with property tax, they then come and focus on the ordinary household. But let's go to this call. Good night.
Good night, Lennox.
Yes, good night to you. Yes.
This is Granny.
Yeah.
The gentleman said, call Granny right now if she has any doctor's family.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you something. I have doctor family. Maybe you had heard me on air already, but I had talked. Right. When you finish internship, and you have to wait 10 months or a year, or when till they call you, would you sit down home? That gentleman, he had heard me already. You wouldn't sit down home. I have family, I have nieces, and then, yes, one went and died in the fire market, lettuce, they went in the people planting lettuce and died, doctor, and selling. One was selling in the drugstore, and his grandson is a doctor, until they called them to renew the contract. Nothing wrong in that. You're doing something, you're still making.
Yeah, I think the essence of what you're saying has credence. Nobody could argue with that. You one door closed, or you are overqualified, but your forte is not now available. So you look for something else. I agree. Look for something else. Yes.
You feel, well, if there's a doctor, they will apply to the government for a job where you want them apply.
Yeah.
Where you want them apply.
No, you're quite right. The principle that you have enunciated yesterday, I think it is very valid. So no, I don't think anybody should argue with that.
Lennox Smith, let me tell you something. I live in a niche. Niche don't have government rules. No, I would not encourage people to take camper. I will not encourage people to do wrong. Let me tell you something. A 1-foot man, a man on dialysis, if they could do something, if you're a young person, there's plenty UNC activists. There's plenty at UNC. And for 5 days, I don't want nothing. You don't want that what you want. You want to change human life.
Yeah. All right.
And you want to see that people's lives go better. You want to see that people change their life and make themselves somebody and their life go better. Isn't that?
Yes, that's right. Every human being will want that. Every parent will want that for the children, etc. Go ahead.
I have a healthy working care free. Right, that he had education.
Yes.
And he will get something when the man comes.
Yes. That will be subsistence until. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, it had a boy. He was working secret.
Yeah.
He working in a chicken farm.
Yeah. I want to tell you, we don't have much time. We don't have much time because we're closing off now. But
I'm telling you,
go ahead. Yes.
Let me tell you something.
Go ahead. Yes.
I am not going to make excuse for people.
Right.
Get up and get something to do.
Yes. And that's a fundamental principle. We accept that, right?
Right. So if you have to ask if she has any family.
Yeah.
Which
I know it might have been facetious. Yes. Okay. Thanks.
Because I had said it.
Yeah.
So
Okay then.
time with see, my family will sit at home and go on a radio.
That's right. Exactly. And wait for the government to give them something. Yeah.
They
All right.
have butter and bread.
Yeah.
They
That's
will
going.
get up and work.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. We have to go. All right. Yeah. And the moral of the story is that you have to get up and get. All right. But of course, I gave a scenario yesterday where if it is that you are part of an organization and you are, in this case, politics, and you are victimized by the party that was in government, and your party gets in government, one expects that victimization will be taken on board. And if that victimization means that you lost bread and butter, then of course some kind of facilitation must be made from a political patronage perspective to, of course, address that. As is the case with ministers, prime ministers, and we can go on and on. Otherwise, they should refuse the position that they hold, and that brings with it, of course, an ability to put food on the table, and that is the point we are making here. Let's take this final call. Good night.
Hello, good night, Lennox.
Good night.
Lennox, we come from the concrete jungle. We don't live back and depend on government. We better to go there and hunt and get we bread. So, granny, we just go there and hunt. We just talking how we supporters at the USD. People who support and fight like we, and we get victimized on the PNM. Do opportunities too.
That's right.
And do opportunities. Granny, do you want to increase in your pension? You know, see, we get an increase in your pension 2015. Yeah. All us who are the black communities and them having nothing. Because you see, Indian community not talking like all us talking now. Because them opportunities, get them support the USC, and they're getting opportunities. They were the West corridor of nothing. Like Lennox is a man fighting for years. Well, black leaders and supporters in East West corridor, they neglect Lennox. They didn't give him that support. Lennox, that Granny, take a rest now.
No. We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. I think her admonition is commendable. Get up and get. First and foremost, you are a human being. You have to survive in this jungle, so to speak. This jungle of various nature, not trees and plants and so on, but one of a sociological nature and economic nature. But at the same time, there are exceptions to the rule, and that is that if it is that you attach yourself to a political entity and that you were victimized as a consequence of doing that by those who were in power, then of course there should be some facilitatory mechanism, and it's only right as a human being, because there are those who would have been subjected to the same kind of what I consider to be recriminations and hostility. And now the situation has reversed, or has been reversed, because of the intervention of the party that you would have served. That is called political patronage. I've always said that. Otherwise, you had to tell Trump not to put in the Democrats on them when, of course, he is announcing his ministers or his secretaries, as the case may be. You do the same thing in Grenada, St. Vincent, Dominica. That is part and parcel of it, including, of course, where the mecca of our Westminster system, the United Kingdom. That's where we get it from. And why that is so? Because it is your people that will most likely will execute your policies and programs. There are some that would betray the cause. Of course, we had a recent example with respect to Victor Roberts, but those are far and in between and exceptions to the rule. There are exceptions to the rule. But generally, your people are expected. Why? Because at the end of the day, that political entity must now account to the people, in our case, 5 years hence, as to what you would have done, and you must be now looking for another term by saying, I did X, Y, Z, and therefore I deserve another term. That is how the system is. Simple like that. So let us not fool ourselves into believing that somehow what the reality is, in circumstances, as I have mentioned, that the person have no right to have expectations. In fact, it is the duty of the party to say, and we have seen that, the Prime Minister current has said in non-certain terms, there's room for everybody. What do you think that means? What do you think that means? And was very specific when she talked about board appointments, etc., etc. But I have to acknowledge that those who come out of the woodwork, so to speak, and get an opportunity because there's a friend of this one, because everybody have the friend, some closer than others, they would try to defend or protect something, and whether advertently or inadvertently, deprive those who are deserving of getting their opportunity to serve. Not necessarily to put food on the table, because that will naturally come, but to serve. And I have said in no uncertain terms, and I mean it, I am prepared to work for free for the UNC but never for the PNM. And if you have a resource individual like myself, there's nobody else in Laventille, in the country, that have had the kind of experience and know-how and still operating today. And you will always be a target, just as the Prime Minister and just like every single minister. You heard the opposition leader trying to deprive us here in Laventille and you out there in East Port of Spain and so on of job opportunities. How she is doing that, even as opposition leader. They have already done it with respect, of course, to being in government, but here it is in opposition. They have literally weaponized the office of procurement by raising objections, 100 and something million, so 1.4 billion the next way, and these things have to be delayed. And every delay, it means that therefore less job opportunities in that period until the matter is resolved by the office of procurement. That's what they have done. And quite apart from the fact that when the UNC in its previous incarnation, they said, listen, all these buildings, and notice I'm pointing at it because they're right outside here, across the street. All these buildings, you give, of course, the people it. Once you could certify for $100, it was the PNM that said, no, that is a trick. And today they don't own nothing. And the PNM went on, of course, to displace them. Because they want, of course, to bring the 1%ers and to take the real estate that potentially is the most valuable in the country because it is on the eastern outskirts of what? Or the eastern skirts or the eastern border of Port of Spain. That's what the PNM did to us. But the problem that seemed intractable, in my view, young people gravitating to a life of crime, etc., I think I am not satisfied, I am not satisfied that more could not have been done. There is too much reliance on the police. There is too much reliance on state of emergency. And I want to tell those independent and PNM people, when the Zoso bill comes back, I want to tell the government that they have to focus their promotion and their awareness and their efforts at mobilizing the people to focus on the part of that bill that talks about the legal requirement. If a place is called a Zoso, the legal requirement of the government to fix the roads, to make sure children go to school, to make sure sporting grounds and sporting activities take place, with the committee that would be set up in that Zoso, while people like myself can now get some breathing space to do what? To generate those capacity building initiatives, whether it's infrastructure, roads, drains, pavements, etc., electricity, telephone, and so on. Employment. While the police handles those elements that are still recalcitrant and willing, of course, to take the community and by extension the country down a road where advisories against Trinidad and Tobago will never be subsided. That's what we are talking about here. I said so in opposition and I'm saying so now, and as head of Love, entering, of course, the coalition of interest. I care not 2 foot about those who have character assassination agenda to pursue themselves as persons who are credible and can take anything forward. Otherwise, they will be doing tonight what I am doing as well, maybe in some other slot. So I have no qualms, I have no respect for such elements. I'm too old in this game for that. So let's get it clear. And in the fullness of time, As I've always said, and I said it today in a very significant meeting, that what you meet you in pass you, and what is for you is for you, especially if you are unique in an area where the society has a demand. It's just a matter of time. So a year, notice I talked the same thing about the PNM and they will have to call early elections, and I did that, about 2 years before they eventually, of course, did it maybe with about 7 or 9 months, but they did it earlier than, as was predicted, they call election earlier because the pressure was too much. And incidentally, of course, in closing, let me say to Penelope, because no, the present government is not in any way in a state of shambles. No way at the end of its wits. No. It is the PNM and that statement that you would have made, not apologizing, not saying what you will do. And more importantly, being a humbug, being a hurdle for the very people who you say you love, that you said was displaced from CPEP, URP, and the other programs. But that love clearly is one of convenience for your own political agenda. Because if you had any sincerity about that, you will never try to humbug the $1.4 billion in potential employment, as well as satisfying the housing needs of quite a lot of persons in a situation where the government has no money to put out. You should be supporting the government rather than attempting to weaponize in your interests, in your warped and evil political interests, weaponize the office of procurement. It is dastard, it is evil, it is wicked, and it's a continuation of that evil. That is why I could say without fear of contradiction, the PNM must be relegated to the dustbin of political history in this country. Must be. Must be. So have no sympathy for me. What I want to see is that those who I have labored over the years as a society, as a community, physical, psychological, as well as human, that they get their fair share and they rise to the occasion at the appropriate time, knowing that they must divest themselves of the PNM, the iniquitous and the impediment to advancing and development. I saw Joshua wanting to say something before we close. So Joshua, if you wish, come and make your statement or whatever it is. We have not been able, of course, to deal with the youth corner, as we call it, from 5:30, but we'll get there, just as how we'll get there with Mr. COP as well. So let me hear what you say. Yes.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, well, my birthday party was the 3rd of May, so I just want to say happy birthday to my mother, which is today. My granny Pinky, happy birthday, I never fish you. For a lot of months, probably like a year.
Okay.
Mr. Kendrick, Miss Benjamin, and everybody celebrating this month. Tomorrow is my nephew's birthday, and his name is Matthew, and turn 1.
All right. That's it?
Yeah, that's it, but wait. I know,
Hey, listen, I had to go to rest for in the morning, so come on. You are home because I think he's under the weather these days, so he's not at school, but so he's resting. I have to get up in the morning. So go ahead, conclude.
If just now, I will tell you what's new, master. I have some soap selling here.
He's a businessman.
So the jasmine soap green and you can't see it. It's see-through.
Yeah, because of the background that we have. So you wouldn't be able to see the green because the background is green here.
And it's a rose soap. I selling anybody that comes, I will ask if they want.
Yeah, well, what's the cost? What's the price? What's the price?
$5 for soap.
$5 for one soap. Oh, okay.
For one soap, I ain't selling it in one. I sell two and three and four.
Alright, okay, so at minimum you'll have to put out $10 if you want to get your soap that you have on sale.
Yeah, but I don't really want to sell by the one because it doesn't really make much money.
Alright, okay. Or you would make it quickly.
I could just say $7 for one, two for $10.
Right, well, you will determine that is your soap and is your investment. People, of course, yes, we have come to the end of tonight's program. I trust that the information disclosed will be considered and that you will make the kind of valuable contribution that you continue to make. Don't forget, of course, that tomorrow morning, the ground report, Andy and myself, as we continue with these and other topics. It has to be said and it must be said. And really and truly, if we love Trinidad and Tobago and you love your community, you'll certainly, of course, understand why what we focus upon is so important. Yes, indeed.
All the Satan wickedness in the poor man community is borderline. Say man and man fear to walk down in the next man vicinity is borderline. Why the Satan wickedness in the poor man community? So you say that you're a bad man. How much gun you got? You love to bust gunshot. Well, let's say you must be madman. No one no time for that. You're an idiot. And let me hear it from the voices in the ghetto. Badness out of style, sing it again and let me hear it echo. Badness out of style. Don't want no badman groups, no more badman troops coming to rob and shoot. We should be taking time to nurture the youth. Say you remember we're going with Sean Luke. Somebody cross the borderline. No man and man fear to walk down in the next man vicinity. It's
Well, this is I Million Voice alongside I Sasha. Then, blood forever, then. Anyway, blessed are the ones that walk in the council of the ungodly, not standing in the way of sinners. Not sitting in the seat with scornful, but they delight in the law of the Lord, and that Lord shall meditate day and night. They shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of waters that bring forth fruits in the season, and whatsoever shall they do shall prosper for ever and ever. The wicked are not sober like a chaff which the wind drive it away. Therefore the wicked shall not stand in the congregation of the righteous, not the judgment. Anybody hear me say lava? As I lay myself to sleep, oh, I pray my soul you'll keep. Yeah. If I should die before I awake, I hope my soul you'll accept, Jah. Yeah. As Lucifer is roaming with his eyes wide open.